Good morning, beloved souls. My talk is called Let It Have a Body, Sacred Sovereignty and the Life of Spirit. Yes, I love that. Thanks. Oh, and we are finally in spring. Oh my God. Yes. And spring is such a, yes, that's how I feel too. I love it. Oh, spring is such a beautiful teacher. The green has returned. The tulips, the daffodils, they're in full bloom. Blossoms are revealing themselves. And nature is teaching us something true. Life doesn't only awaken, life takes form. There are times in our lives when we become aware of something true. And the question becomes, can I let what is true take form? Can I let it become lived, spoken, embodied? Can I let it have a body? And I want to speak to that question today because I think many of us are carrying something true that hasn't yet found its form. And for many of us, we've been carrying that truth for years. A knowing that keeps surfacing. A conversation we know we need to have. A boundary we can feel we need before we have words for it. A creative impulse asking for attention. A change we keep sensing but haven't yet made. Sometimes the truth is very simple. I love these people and I cannot keep being available in this way, right? We sense it, and we also feel afraid of disappointing someone, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of what might change if we say it out loud, afraid of who we might become if we let it take form. And that fear is not failure. It is a sign that something in us knows that truth may change things. Our relationships, our roles, our sense of belonging, the way life has been organized. So we hold the truth inside. And over time, something in us begins to dim. This is where truth begins to have consequence. So today, I want to talk about the life of spirit and what it asks of us. In science of mind, we know spirit is always seeking expression. And sacred sovereignty asks a tender question. Can I let spirit take form in my life while remaining home to myself, without abandoning myself? That to me is holy ground. Now, to be clear, we can't actually abandon spirit. There's only one life. There's nowhere to go outside of spirit. There's no outside of spirit. But we can abandon our conscious participation in spirit. We can lose contact with our body, with our truth, our rhythm, our inner knowing, through which spirit is becoming particular, individualized as us. So when I talk about self-abandonment, I don't mean separation from spirit. I mean losing contact with the very place where spirit is trying to become lived. And this matters in very ordinary and human ways. Because when what's true in us doesn't get a body, it doesn't disappear. It shows up as avoidance, as resentment, exhaustion, and the ache of being loved for being agreeable, but not actually known in our truth. A truth that never gets a body begins to cost us our aliveness. Many of us were taught to build our lives around being needed. We were praised for being good, strong, pleasing, endlessly available, and sometimes the very patterns we were praised for are the patterns that separated us from our own body, our truth, our rest, our rhythm, and our inner authority. So this isn't only a talk about expression. It's a talk about reclaiming the place inside us where spirit can move without self-abandonment being the price. In Science of Mind, we begin with this foundational truth. There is only one life, one presence, one creative intelligence, one divine reality moving through all things. And this life is alive, creative, generative, forever seeking fuller expression. Spirit is always expressing itself through beauty, through nature, through the lives we're living, through relationship. And how do we participate in that movement, not only as belief, not only as inspiration, but as embodiment? Spirit doesn't only comfort us inwardly. Spirit seeks to live as us through our bodies, through our voices, through our choices, through our presence in the world. And that is beautiful. And it's also tender. Because many of us have learned to bring what's sacred into form through pressure. We've learned to force, to perform, to overfunction, to override our body, to rush the timing. So when something true begins to rise in us, we may not know how to let it have a body gently. And that's where this teaching becomes personal. For most of my adult life, I operated under enormous internal pressure to be excellent, to be helpful, to hold things together for my family, my work, my friendships, my spiritual life. I didn't rest when I was tired. I didn't ask for what I needed. I abandoned myself in 1,000 ways every day. And I called it love. And I called it service. I called it strength. And my body carried the cost. At winter solstice, I had what I can only call a transmission, a vision for this body of work, sacred sovereignty. It came with clarity. It came with beauty. It came with a holy insistence that I couldn't ignore. Something sacred wanted a body. And I began to understand that this was not only a body of work, it was a covenant, a devotion to remain with myself while the work took form. I was being asked to make a vow, not a plan, not a strategy, a vow. And I said yes to this work, the way one says yes to a threshold. Not because I understood it fully, but because something holy had arrived, and I knew I could not turn away and remain honest with myself. That vow did not demand perfection. It asked for presence. It asked me to stay with what was emerging, not by forcing it into form, but by tending it the way we tend a living thing. And I felt so much love and awe and devotion and gratitude, a sense of being entrusted with something alive. And I was guided to share it. And so I did. I created a WhatsApp group that many of you are now part of. And oh, that has been so meaningful for me. And there are these moments where I feel pressure around it all. What is this? What is it supposed to be? I have to do something with this. I have to explain it. I have to build it now. I have to make sure people understand. And that pressure feels so lonely. It has felt like trying to make something happen on my own. It has felt like leaving the very field of spirit that had given the work to me in the first place. And I realized that pressure was self-abandonment too. So I asked myself, what would it feel like to bring this forward from love and spaciousness rather than pressure? Creating from love feels like warm honey in my bones. Pressure feels contracted, squeezed, forced, trying to make something happen alone. When I asked, what is the first simple way this wants to become real? And the answer was simple. Create the daily stillness practice rhythm for the group. Not the entire future, not the whole book that I could feel wants to be written, just the first true form. And here's what I discovered after continuing in this way. Letting it have a body didn't look like what I expected. It didn't look like pushing or figuring it all out. It looked like creating a space, a sanctuary that was beautiful and my own. It looked like reaching for the essential oil that felt right in the morning. And it looked like taking one true grounded step at a time. That was spirit taking form. That is me letting it have a body, one step at a time. Letting something have a body doesn't mean forcing it into final form. It means listening for the next form it wants to take. It means letting what is sacred become lived, one grounded step at a time. It means allowing spirit to move through us without abandoning our body, our pace, our rhythm, or the tenderness through which spirit is also speaking. That's sacred sovereignty in practice. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Saying yes while your body is already saying no. Making yourself smaller so someone else can feel more comfortable. Being loved for being agreeable, but not actually known. That's what it looks like when truth doesn't get a body. And every one of us has some truth that wants a body so it can be expressed. For some, it's a boundary that's yearning to be set. For some, it's grief that wants tenderness. For some, it's a calling that wants one faithful step. If truth never gets a body, it remains inspiration instead of transformation. If love never gets a body, it remains an idea instead of a lived presence. If a calling never gets a body, it may become an endless ache instead of an offering. And if a boundary never becomes a real choice, we may keep saying yes while our body continues to say no. If spirit is seeking expression in us, through us, as us, then our embodiment matters. Each of us is a unique expression of the one life. Your life gives spirit a particular way to be expressed, a unique way, unlike any other. Most of us are living under an old contract, an agreement we didn't consciously make, we absorbed early from family, from culture, from survival. The terms of the contract are something like this: be good, be strong, be pleasing, be endlessly available. And if you do, you'll be safe, you'll be loved, you'll belong. The cost of this contract is self-abandonment. We leave ourselves, our needs, our instincts, our creative life, our rest, our truth, in order to maintain the bond. And we often do this so automatically, so gracefully, that we don't even know we're doing it. The body of work that I'm building, called Sacred Sovereignty, is about interrupting that old contract, not with force, not by becoming armored or selfish or closed, but by daring to believe something different. That belonging doesn't require disappearance. Your goodness does not have to be proven through exhaustion. You do not have to abandon yourself in order to love, to serve, or to play, or stay. Your worthiness was never on the table. We would never tell the tulip she doesn't matter. We would never tell the lilac that her blooming was inconvenient. We would never stand over the opening bud and say, not yet, not enough, not quite right. And yet, we do this to ourselves every day. Or am I the only one? You are not in the way of spirit. You are what spirit wants to live. You are where spirit wants to live. You matter. Your body matters. Your truth matters. Your unfolding matters. And when you abandon yourself, something holy is interrupted. Not lost, but interrupted. Sacred sovereignty, to me, is one of the ways love says, come back, come back, come back, and let what is true begin to live. It's the practice of staying present to the wholeness of who we are while life moves through us, remaining in contact with the body, our pace, our integrity, our truth, the very place spirit is already expressing. Our body is not separate from spirit. Our humanity is not in the way of divinity. It's one of the places our divinity becomes known. We do not have to leave ourselves behind in order to embody what is true. The body is not an obstacle to spirit. Ernest Holmes wrote, "The physical body is evolved for the purpose of allowing consciousness to function on this plane." Our body is not outside the sacred. Our body is not a mistake to transcend. It is one of the ways spirit becomes visible, tangible, and lived. I know for some of us, the body has not always felt like home, and that's real. This isn't about forcing anything. It's about gently turning toward whatever is possible today. Our body lets us experience and express what's true. Our voice lets us give it form. Our breath lets us return. Our nervous system helps us notice when we're moving in love and when we're moving in pressure. So often in spiritual spaces, people have been taught to transcend past the body, past the ache, past the human. But what if the body is not in the way? What if the body is part of the revelation? What if the life of spirit is not asking us to float above our humanity, but to inhabit it more fully, more lovingly, more truthfully? Then let it have a body becomes a sacred invitation. Let love have a body. Let truth have a body. Let your soul have a body. Spring has so much to teach us here. By now, what was resting underground in winter begins to show itself. A first shoot is tender. It doesn't need pressure. It needs right conditions, warmth, gentleness, space, just enough. Nature doesn't rush. We don't stand over the first green shoot and demand that it bloom by tomorrow. Every living thing has its own timing, its own intelligence, its own relationship with light, soil, water, temperature, root, and season. And so do we. So do our truths, our relationships, our callings, our dreams, this community. I say this because sometimes when something begins to become alive in us, we immediately put pressure on it. What's the plan? How do I explain this? What will people think? How do we get it to where we want to go? But sacred sovereignty invites us to learn from nature, to stay with what is growing, to give it the right conditions, to let it root, to let it take form in right timing. This is not passivity. This is participation with reverence. This is the difference between tending life and rushing the bloom. What wants a body in me now? Not everything, not my whole future, not a dramatic reinvention. Well, maybe a dramatic reinvention. Just what wants a body now? And what would it look like to take one simple, loving step toward form? This is where spirituality becomes lived, not only in inspiration, but in embodiment. Not only in vision, but aligning with that vision. Not only in private comfort, but in a full, flourishing life. Because spirit is not only seeking to be believed in, spirit is seeking to be embodied as love, as truth, as courage, as tenderness, as service, as art, as right relationship, as the life you are actually living. Friends, the life of spirit is already within you. It's already moving, already seeking expression, already pressing gently toward fuller life. The question is not whether it is there. The question is, will you let it have a body? Spirit does not need us the way a parent needs a child to behave. Spirit needs... That was perfect timing, because spirit needs us in the way a song needs a voice. The way love needs a body to become real in this world. Not because spirit is incomplete, but because spirit expresses through form. There is only one life, and that one life chooses to become particular individualized. It chose to become you. And you. And you. All yous. Your body, your history, your quality of presence, your way of loving and seeing and creating, not as a metaphor, as a fact. So this is not selfishness dressed up as spirituality. This is you saying yes to the life that wants to live through and as you. This is becoming available. This is letting it have a body. When we abandon ourselves, we don't just lose contact with ourselves. Something of Spirit's expression through this particular life is interrupted, and I want to name what that cost actually is. The truth that could only have been spoken in your particular voice. The love that could only have been expressed through your particular presence. The world does not receive what could only have moved through your life. And you lose contact with the life you actually came here to live. That is the cost. Not someday, right now. Every day we leave ourselves behind. And we are living in a time when the cost of this disconnection, all the ways we abandon ourselves, is visible everywhere. We can see what happens when people lead from fear instead of love. When people live so far from their own hearts that they can no longer feel the humanity of another. When the wound runs the show instead of truth. We know what that world looks like. And we also know that it doesn't have to be this way. Because the opposite of disconnection is not argument. The opposite of disconnection is embodiment. It is a human being at home with themselves, at home with the truth that we are all one life, knowing that what I do to you, I do to myself. That your suffering matters because we are not separate. That love is not a sentiment. It is the actual fabric of reality. And when we stop abandoning ourselves, when we let Spirit move through us more freely, with more love and less fear, something shifts, not just for us, all around us. There is a ripple outward into the world. And the person who has been living from fear and disconnection, if they ever find their way back to their own heart, the othering softens. The wall begins to come down. And this is what is possible through each of us saying yes to the life that wants to live through us and as us. One honest choice at a time, one truth finally given a body, one person coming home to themselves, and then another, and then another. This is how the world changes. This is the ripple. This is why it matters that you're here today, that you're listening, that something in you is already saying yes. And I don't offer this as someone who's already arrived. I offer this as someone who is absolutely still becoming, someone who's learning day by day what it means to let Spirit take form without self-abandonment being the price. So I want to invite us now into a brief spiritual practice of direct revelation. If it feels comfortable, you might place a hand on your heart or a hand on your belly or however it's comfortable for you. And just breathe. Take one breath that does not need to prove anything. Let your body know there is nothing to force here, only something to listen for, and gently ask, What wants a body in me now? What truth is Spirit longing to express as me? And what is one loving way I can say yes? Let it be simple, let it be kind, and let it be true. And if nothing comes, let that be information too. May we trust what is seeking form. May we stop confusing force with faithfulness. May what has thawed in us be met with kindness. May what is alive in us be welcomed with joy. May beauty guide us. May our souls feel welcome in our bodies. And may we allow the life of Spirit to become embodied in us as truth, love, integrity, and grace. May we let it have a body. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you.